What if the power to endure unimaginable suffering came not just from inner strength, but from a divine source, a wellspring of grace preparing us for an era yet to unfold? Padre Pio, a saint revered by millions, bore the sacred stigmata, the very wounds of Christ, on his body, an incredible sign of his profound union with the suffering of Jesus. These painful marks, which he carried with profound humility, were not mere symbols. They were portals to an unfolding truth, a testament to a divine architecture of suffering that whispers of what is yet to come, perhaps even foreshadowing the spiritual trials destined for the end of 2026. What is the deeper mystery behind these wounds? And how did Padre Pio endure an agony that could have broken any mortal soul? An agony that might yet serve as a blueprint for endurance in times of great tribulation. In his final moments, as he faced his earthly end, Padre Pio was visited by Jesus Christ himself, an encounter that leaves us questioning what profound truths were revealed in that sacred moment. Was it a glimpse of a destiny laid out? A map for humanity's journey through a period of intense spiritual awakening? The stigmata Padre Pio bore was not just the wounds of the nails and spear, but also a wound on his shoulder, reminiscent of Christ's own burden while carrying the cross. According to some accounts, this particular wound was a divine gift, bestowed by Jesus himself. But what was the true, enduring purpose behind this extraordinary suffering? What lessons were etched into his very flesh for us, for these uncertain times, and for the revelations that may accompany the end of 2026? Have you ever felt that something beyond our world is already moving, orchestrating events we are only beginning to perceive? Born in the humble town of Pietrelcina, Italy, Padre Pio's path was always marked by a profound connection to God. Despite fragile health and personal challenges, he was destined to become one of the most extraordinary saints of the 20th century. But what is it about his life, his miracles, and his unwavering connection to the divine that continues to draw people to him, even decades after his death? And why did his relationship with the Church, despite his holiness, remain so complicated, as if his existence itself challenged the established order, preparing the ground for deeper truths to emerge? Could these unconfirmed whispers of his prophetic vision for a future pope and blood on his pontificate be veiled warnings for a time not so distant, a spiritual crucible, perhaps destined for the end of 2026? Let us delve into the mysteries of Padre Pio's life, his suffering, and the hidden truths that still surround him. Was his role in salvation greater than we can comprehend, extending beyond his lifetime into our own? In the 1920s, Padre Pio's ability to publicly celebrate the sacraments was revoked due to various accusations. The Holy See further declared that nothing divine could be found in his experiences. However, in 1933, there was some shift in the Church's stance. Pope Pius XI clarified that the actions against Padre Pio were due to misinformation rather than malicious intent. Pope Pius XII was supportive of Padre Pio, while Pope John XXIII was not. It was only Pope Paul VI who fully exonerated him. What if the shifting sands of church opinion were merely human blindness to a larger, divine tapestry, one that weaves threads from ancient suffering to the unfolding spiritual drama of our own era, perhaps reaching a critical point at the end of 2026? In 1947, Father Karol Wojtyła visited Padre Pio, and according to one account, Padre Pio predicted that he would become Pope and saw blood on his pontificate. Could this prophetic ambiguity be a deliberate divine design, a soft warning for future leaders and for us? Padre Pio was beatified by Pope John Paul II in 1999 and canonized by the same pope in 2002. For much of the 20th century, Saint Padre Pio bore the wounds of Christ, all of them, including the burden of doubt and the injustice of false accusations. These struggles, too, were stigmata of the soul, a profound union with Christ's own societal rejection. Two of the Church's most revered relics, the Shroud of Turin and the Volto Santo, the image of the Holy Face, may be familiar to you. The latter was hidden for 400 years and is believed to be the second burial cloth of Jesus, known as the Sudarium. What if these ancient relics, once concealed, are now being unveiled and understood with renewed urgency. Their messages speaking directly to our present age, preparing us for what is to come by the end of 2026. According to an ancient legend, a woman offered her headcloth to wipe Jesus' face on his way to Golgotha. When he returned it to her, the image of his face was imprinted on the veil. This event is associated with the 6th station of the cross in Rome, a location that has been legendary since the 8th century. The woman in the legend is named Veronica, though this name does not appear in the gospel narrative of Christ's passion. The veil is believed to be one of the 2 burial cloths of Jesus. This veil, which many believe is enshrined at Manipello, contrasts with the larger burial cloth, widely regarded as the Shroud of Turin. The image on the veil is not of a deceased man, but of one very much alive, with his eyes open. Jesus Christ, having triumphed over death. In 1978, Capuchin priest Father Domenico Day, who had been the custodian of the shrine, tragically died in an accident while visiting the Shroud of Turin. However, a decade earlier, in 1968, Father Domenico recounted a peculiar event. On September 22nd, he opened the doors of the shrine and was astonished to find Padre Pio kneeling in prayer before the image of the Holy Face. At that moment, Padre Pio was 200 kilometers away in San Giovanni Rotondo, gravely ill and near death. This was his last recorded instance of bilocation, a phenomenon like his visible stigmata that sparks skepticism both within and outside the Church. Yet what if this bilocation was not merely a miracle of presence, but a prophetic act? A bridging of realms that hints at a spiritual convergence. A moment when the veil between worlds thins, perhaps dramatically so, as the end of 2026 draws near. In his final days, Padre Pio meditated on the burial cloth of Christ. After having borne the visible wounds of Christ for 50 years, his soul yearned for a connection with the image of Jesus beyond death. His yearning for the risen Christ feels like a prayer for us, for those who must navigate the complex spiritual currents of our present age and the profound shifts that may culminate around the end of 2026. A great burden, when carried for many years, becomes part of who we are. We can hardly imagine Padre Pio without these wounds. In this way, the wounds were not for his own benefit. They were for us. They were a vivid testament, a living prophecy echoing through the decades. As Padre Pio's health continued to decline in the 1960s, his final days came swiftly. On September 21st, 1968, the day after marking the 50th anniversary of receiving the stigmata, he began to feel a profound fatigue. Despite being frail and weak, Padre Pio offered a solemn mass, unaware that it would be his final one. That night, as his condition worsened, those with him realized his end was near. He confessed, renewed his Franciscan vows, and prayed the Hail Mary while holding his rosary. At about 9 p.m. on September 22nd, 1968, Padre Pio called Padre Polino to his room. When Polino entered, he found Padre Pio in bed, his eyes swollen with tears. Padre Pio had called him simply to ask the time. Through the evening, he summoned Padre Polino several more times. Around midnight, Padre Pio requested that Padre Polino stay with him. He insisted Polino sit beside the bed, holding his hand tightly. Padre Pio began trembling like a frightened child, repeatedly asking for the time. Polino felt a sense that Padre Pio had an appointment with someone. Was he anticipating a divine appointment? A meeting that transcended the bounds of his own death? Perhaps a communication meant to echo through time to a generation facing its own crucial time? Not long after midnight, Padre Pio asked Polino to celebrate Mass for his soul and to hear his confession. He meticulously arranged every detail of his life, renewing his vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. What profound significance did this meticulous preparation hold for us, who stand on the precipice of what may be a spiritually demanding end of 2026? Feeling short of breath, Padre Pio asked, "Are there any stars in the sky tonight?" Despite his severe arthritis, at 81 years of age, he suddenly rose from his bed, walking effortlessly to the veranda. He then began to gaze intently at a specific spot. He was looking at the exact place where, just hours later, the Capuchins would carry his lifeless body. Could his actions have been a spiritual blueprint, a final, wordless prophecy for a world unknowingly marching towards its own defining moments? Suddenly, he became extremely ill. The doctors realized he was having a heart attack. At 2:30 a.m. on September 23, 1968, with his rosary in his hands, Padre Pio gently bowed his head and passed away. According to the Father Guardian of the monastery, 10 minutes after Padre Pio passed away, all traces of the stigmata on his hands, feet, and side disappeared. This phenomenon remains unexplained. Could these disappearances be a silent prophecy that the visible signs of faith will ultimately give way to an internal, purified understanding, essential for the trials that might greet us at the end of 2026? In many ways, St. Pio was a contrast to our scientifically driven age. He provided wise and holy counsel to countless souls. What if these profound practices are not just for personal holiness, but for the collective spiritual readiness of humanity, a sacred armor for the unfolding truths and challenges that await us, perhaps reaching a peak intensity around the end of 2026. Here is his 5-point rule of life. First, weekly confession. This cleansing is not merely for past wrongs, but for strengthening the spirit for future burdens. Second, daily communion. This daily sustenance is preparation for times when spiritual nourishment may be scarce. Third, an evening examination of conscience. This fosters vigilance, a keen awareness crucial for navigating subtle deceptions. Fourth, daily spiritual reading. For in the coming years, true wisdom will be more precious than gold, a compass in uncharted spiritual waters. Finally, mental prayer twice a day. These disciplines are not just rituals, but a vital regimen for building an unshakable connection. A lifeline for the soul as the great mysteries, perhaps tied to the end of 2026, begin to fully unfold around us.